Michael John Hodge was a loving brother, a caring son, and someone who greatly impacted the people around him. Those closest to him described him as kind, genuine, and someone who could light up a room. We're going to watch a short video clip of Michael's brother, Bill Hodge, explaining the type of man that Michael was.
Yeah, you know, it's been 19 years now since Mike was last seen, and he's greatly missed. You know, there isn't a day that goes by that we don't think about him. We're always praying for him, you know, because at this point, being so long, we can only, you know, God knows, you know, what happened, and we pray for him.
Many of you in here have a sibling or have a loved one. Imagine if that sibling or loved one just disappeared, with no evidence and no trace. That is the reality for Michael John Hodge's family. I'm Addie. I'm Elise.
I'm Tristan. I'm Emerson.
And this is the disappearance of Michael John Hodge.
To start with the introduction of this case of Michael John Hodge, who's pictured in the right of this photograph, he was last seen on the night of March 6, 2004, leaving a party in Cleveland, Ohio, which is where he was living at the time, and the current status of this case is an active cold case. From speaking with family members and those involved in Michael's life, we were able to learn about some of his qualities. He was 39 years old at the time he went missing, which make him about 61 now, and some key physical details to note is that he was missing his 4 front teeth, and he had a tattoo of a skull on his right forearm. But beyond just his physical characteristics, Michael was a loving brother, son, and uncle. On the screen you can see a quote from his brother, Bill, and he's just deeply missed by his family. He was a great guy, knew how to light up a room and make anybody smile. He was athletic and he loved to stay active by being outdoors. He enjoyed fishing and camping, and he had a big heart for all animals. His family misses him dearly, and each year following his disappearance, his mom continued to buy him Christmas gifts and would place them in his bedroom in hopes that one day her son would return and she would be able to give it to him.
The night of March 6, 2004 was the last night that Michael was seen. The evening started when he arrived at a party at 4444 West 172nd Street. Surrounded by his usual friends, he was under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Michael and his friend, Rick Orville, were kicked out of the party for reasons that are unknown. Michael and Rick, after getting kicked out, walked to their dad's house and looked for a bus pass to be able to let Rick go home. They were unsuccessful in finding the bus pass, so they both walked back to the party, and this is when Rick was last seen leaving with someone who was unknown, getting a ride back home to Brook Park. This was then the last time Michael was seen, and he was last seen leaving on his bike at around 4:30 a.m. This is an image of the party house and his dad's house. The pin on the bottom is the party house, and right across the street is Michael's dad's house. And this is an image of the party house. It's a duplex, and the one that they were partying at is the one on the left.
This is a blue 10-speed bicycle. This is the bike that Michael was last seen on. This was his main means of transportation, and it was never found. This isn't his exact bike, but it's the exact same make and model.
This is Dodger. We were originally introduced to him from a teacher at the high school, Mr. Navarro. He had met him on the Loveland Bike Trail when he was walking with his case one day. And as you can see, in the next slide, he will look very similar to the AI age progression picture. And he had also very similar interests and features as Michael. He loved the outdoors, he had some missing front teeth, and he had the same home-free lifestyle. And him and Michael had very similar Cleveland accents. As you can see, this is the AI generated picture. On the left, you can see Michael, and on the right, you can see Dodger. As you can see in the middle, they look very similar. And with the Dodger investigation, we contacted the Marymount Public Library. And the reason we contacted this is because Mr. Navarro had told us that Dodger had been going on multiple dates with one of the librarians. And so, with the follow-up, after we talked to Mr. Navarro, he had said that he had had a tattoo on his forearm, and he had sent an audio recording of Bill to Dodger talking, and he had said they sounded very similar. With Dodger cleared through contacting the Marymount Library, we had discovered that he is actually a California native, and his real name is Roger Brooks, and he's been living over 15 years with his current lifestyle. No car, no cell phone, no bills to pay, and no boss except for himself. Detective Callahan and Bill Hodge have confirmed that this is not Michael Hodge.
With a missing persons case, there's a lot of uncertainty. During our research, we looked at 6 different outcomes: accidental death, suicide, voluntary disappearance, foul play, a hit and run fatality, and misidentified or unidentified remains.
The first of these possibilities is accidental death. The one we looked into the most was an accidental drowning or falling into a body of water. With talking to Detective Callahan, the main detective on this case, we asked him if bodies of water were ever searched after the disappearance of Michael. If you look here, the yellow highlight is the Rocky River. At the bottom, there's a red pin, is the house that Michael was last seen at. The Rocky River is within a 1 to 2 mile bike ride. This may seem far, but it was not very far for Michael because he was always traveling on his bike. If you look up top, at the red, it is Lake Erie. This was a 7 to 8 mile bike ride, and like I said, it was not very far from Michael because he was always traveling on his bicycle. Suicide. Unfortunately, this is a possibility in Michael's case. He had a history of mental health and behavioral changes. He would run away, but he always returned and called his mother. We ruled this out and thought it was unlikely because usually in suicide cases, there's a body found or some sort of evidence. With Michael, there was no evidence, no body found.
Something like Tristan had mentioned was that he had a history of disappearing. Many times he had run away with no notice, but every time, shortly after, he would call his mother and return. At the time, Michael was not employed and he did not have a spouse or kids of his own, so we didn't have many things specifically tying him to Cleveland. Because of this, we have to consider a voluntary disappearance that he had maybe left by choice. On the left, we have a map of the train routes local to Cleveland because he had a history of riding trains, and so this could have been one of his transportation methods. And also, following his disappearance, there were a couple of reported sightings of seeing Michael at local homeless shelters, so we created a map on the right. The yellow triangle is the marker of the house where he was last seen, and each of the pins includes over 14 local homeless shelters in the area.
This is also another possibility, foul play. He was also involved with drugs and in the drug ring. So someone could have intentionally harmed him when he was going to purchase said drugs, or lured him somewhere with him trying to purchase them, and they could have forced his disappearance. Another possibility is a hit and run fatality. He was intoxicated that night, so he could have been riding in the middle of the road, and someone could have not seen him when it was dark outside, and he could have gotten hit. And what they could have done is they could have panicked and hid the evidence or disposed of the body. And on the right is a picture of a car getting hit by a bike, or a bike getting hit by a car.
Before I do this slide, I would like to make a disclaimer. Michael's case was a missing persons case, and there was no evidence found, so we are not accusing anybody of any crime. The first important person in this case is Rick Orville. Rick was one of Michael's best friends, and it was the person he was last seen with on the night of the party. Rick was never questioned about this case, which we thought was interesting. And unfortunately, Rick passed away a few years ago, so we could not contact him. Jimmy Masenko. Michael was going out with Jimmy's girlfriend at the time. This led to some previous conflicts with Michael and Jimmy. Within a week of us picking up this case and speaking to Detective Callahan, we learned that Jimmy had just been polygraphed about this case. Callahan informed us that everybody at the party was cleared through Jimmy's polygraph, which we also thought was interesting. Callahan was quoted saying he could have been the Pope on this polygraph. Charlie McAndrews. Charlie was very young at the time, and Michael was seen as a father figure to him. We could not get in contact with Charlie, neither could Michael's brother Bill.
We want to give a big thank you to everyone who has helped us out with this case, starting with Mr. Navarro, who brought this case to our attention originally and shared lots of information about Dodger. And also Bill Hodge, the brother of Michael, who shared many authentic memories of him and Michael and helped us learn who he was as a person. And Detective Callahan, the lead detective on this case from the Cleveland Police Department, who shared so much information and gave us enthusiastic support through every step to show us what the inside of this case really looked like. Michael is deeply missed by his family, and we're here to seek justice and shine light on his name. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and if you have any information that could be helpful, or you would like to learn more about this case, you can call the number on the screen, which is the Cleveland Police Department. And at this time, we're taking any questions.
how involved is she in the case, and like what does she think happened?
She's deceased as a couple years ago, so we were not able to contact her.
So was it, Dodger, he ruled it out, he lived, but was there DNA done? Because if he had a history of mental health, maybe he just, I'm just wondering if there was, because if his brother was still living, it could have DNA.
As far as we know, we did not get any DNA done from him because he is not like a stay in one place kind of person. He travels up and down, and no one has really seen him recently, so I don't think they've been able to get any DNA from him.
The last person you mentioned, the 12-year-old who he was like the father figure to them, what was his relevance to the case, or was it just a person in his life?
He was the son of Jimmy Mazinko, and he was also there that night.
I know you guys had a few different leads, so just based off of those, which does like the evidence kind of, mostly points towards that the detectives are also agreeing with you guys that, that might be what happened to John?
Asking Detective Callahan, he was unsure as well. We thought the most likely was voluntary disappearance or accidental death. We thought this because there's no sign, there's no evidence. Also, looking into accidental death, it's very common for intoxicated white males to accidentally fall into bodies of water. So that's why we thought it was interesting that those bodies of water that were near his house were never searched.
So Mr. Rob saw like a tattoo on the other guy's arm. Do you know what the tattoo was of, or just like a mark?
Mr. Carl couldn't fully recall. He hadn't seen him actually for a couple of years. He saw him in the summer a couple years ago, so he did know for sure where it was.
Regarding the bodies of water never being searched, do you know why they were never searched? If like that's a possible angle.
We were never given a reason. We just asked if they were searched, and he said no. That was the only answer he ever gave us.
You guys mentioned something about runaway, so why would we have a reason about runaway? Is there any past people he had issues with, or?
He was removed from the party that night, but with the evidence we gathered, we thought those were the only two, most likely possibilities, because there really is no evidence to this case, and we thought with Detective Callahan, those are the only two that could be justified.
Thank you.